Hello there, very good evening to all our viewers and welcome to the Friday's edition of Primetime News. I'm Joel Outscourt.
And I'm Bernadine Jazz Singh. A very good evening to you. Now let's take a look at headlines.
Freight container truck crashes into an overpass in Kalupalama, Paliagoda. Persons injured in the altercation in Ratapaswala compensated. Chinese government commends the President's and Prime Minister's international policy.
Compensation was presented to persons who were injured in the altercation that took place during a demonstration in Ratapaswala demanding for water.
Compensation was presented at an event held at the President's office today, which was presided over by the Secretary to the President, P.B. Abekon. According to the President's Media Division, 33 persons were compensated during the event. A total of 4.8 million rupees was granted as compensation. President Maithripala Sirisena, who arrived at the location, engaged in a cordial discussion with those who were granted compensation.
Train operations were disrupted for the second time this week after a freight truck crashed into the Kalupalama overpass in Paliagoda. The accident took place at around midnight yesterday, causing serious damage to the overpass.
The Kalupalama overpass is located on the road that leads from the 4th mile post in Paliagoda to Biagama, and the main train tracks take place across this overpass. The maximum height of a vehicle that can pass under the bridge is 3.5 meters. However, a much larger freight truck passed under the overpass last night and crashed onto it. The damage caused to the overpass by the freight truck travelling from Kalania to Colombo was clearly visible. As it was a risk to operate trains on the overpass, the Department of Railways delayed several of its trains this morning. Though the accident took place at midnight, measures were not taken to inform passengers of the delay.
We were not informed of this accident. If we were informed, we could have taken the buses to work. If the railway station was informed there was a delay, we would have taken the bus or another mode of transport. Such allegations cannot be made because inquiries were made and information was given that there will be a delay. The passengers have thought that it is the fault of the Department of Railways. This was not the fault of the Department of Railways, but was the fault of a reckless driver. This is what caused the delay for the commuters. It is the other party that must be held accountable for the delay.
The Department of Railways says that the driver of the freight truck was not adhering to road rules, and that was the cause that led to this situation. However, while agreeing to the fact that the driver was engaged in reckless driving, locals also note that the issue surrounds the malfunctioning signal system.
They should erect appropriate signs saying that vehicles taller than 14 feet should not pass under this bridge. People going for employment purposes are severely inconvenienced by this. Our time and fuel is wasted by this. Government officials must make sure such incidents do not occur again. Most drivers are not aware that there is a height restriction here. Therefore, proper steps should be taken to make motorists aware of this situation.
They simply drive through and there is no point in saying to stop. There are signs. There are around 10 such incidents. There needs to be a solution.
Although
there are signs, they cannot be seen at night. Some people are not even aware of this. Some drivers are not aware that the vehicles do not meet the height requirement. There are many industries here. We have seen many such incidents and we sometimes stop the lorries from proceeding further.
විතර දෙපාර තුන් පාර වැදිලා තියෙනවා මෙතන ඕක.
කෑගාලා කරලා මේ සමාල දොරින් නවත්තනවා ඉතින්.
Although smaller vehicles can pass easily, heavy vehicles are not permitted to travel under the overpass. The maximum height of a vehicle that can pass under the bridge is 3.5 meters. Yet it's been limited to a gazette and a signboard. Many of the freight container trucks operating across the world are higher than this overpass. Freight truck drivers say that this too is a cause for such situations. Now, speaking to News First, police said the Road Development Authority is required to set up warning signs at the location.
ඔව් ඇත්තටම මාර්ග සංඥා සවිකිරීම අපිට අයිති දෙයක්. අපි ටික හරියටම කරලා තියෙනවා කවුරු හරි ගියොතින් අවබෝධ වෙයි. කාලේ හදු.
Installing warning signs is our responsibility. If one looks at this, we have done our duty accordingly. These are not roads that were constructed recently. The railway line has been built on a high level. We tried out many things relating to this. We tried to raise the level of this. There is no way to do so as the foundation is not so deep. The road needs to be used with caution. What we can do is to build a speed bump ahead of the overpass.
ඒ විදිහට උඩින් බාධකයක් පැමිණීම තමයි කරන්න වෙන්නේ.
And on to a story that News First has been closely monitoring on. The reverberations from a leaked trove of Panamanian documents rippled through several nations, with President Vladimir Putin of Russia calling the exposure of a proliferation of shell companies and tax havens an American plot, and Prime Minister David Cameron of Britain admitting that he had profited from an offshore trust.
UK Prime Minister David Cameron, when asked specifically whether he or his family had derived any benefit from the fund from an offshore account, dodged the question. This was highlighted by Newsfirst on our segment Panama Papers on the 6th of this month.
No shares. I have a salary as Prime Minister and I have some savings which I get some interest from, and I have a house which we used to live in, which we now let out while we're living in Downing Street, and that's all I have.
However, today the Prime Minister of UK had an extremely different response.
And I did. Samantha and I had a joint account, and we owned 5,000 units in Blairmore Investment Trust, which we sold in January 2010. That was worth something like £30,000.
Is there a profit on it?
I paid income tax on the dividends, but there was a profit on it, but it was less than the capital gains tax allowance, so I didn't pay capital gains tax, but it was subject to all the UK taxes in all the normal ways.
In Moscow, Russian President Vladimir Putin dismissed reports based on the legal documents which showed that some of his close associates had moved about $2 billion through offshore accounts, calling the accusations an American plot to try to destabilize Russia. Putin, in his first public remarks on the subject, noted that none of the accusations were aimed at him directly because he was not named in the papers, even if the international coverage has focused on him.
Offshore accounts are also creation of the notion that people, wealthy people, must cheat the taxpayers. Here in Sri Lanka, no more than 33 names have been exposed, and these are the wealthiest people in Sri Lanka with so much of reputation at stake. And in Cambodia, in Thailand and other countries, the investigation started. We have done nothing. And I believe the first thing is for the Criminal Investigation Department or the FCID is to go before Magistrates Court and give the names and prevent them from going abroad. That is the first step. And then start investigation. You must understand the investigation must be done in such professional manner. They must get the advice of the Intelligence Department. There are officers who are well trained in this on these offences, and also a special team must be used in order to ensure that every person is exposed, brought before court and punished.
Today what we should do is to investigate immediately, because there are agencies which are concerned about it, like the Exchange Control Department of the Central Bank, Financial Intelligence Unit in the Central Bank, then the Inland Revenue Department, and all these organizations will have to get together and they will have to investigate, because there are the names are there, the addresses are there, statements can be recorded, we can find out under what circumstances and why the money has been taken out of Sri Lanka. And the current procedure should be that not to put them behind bars. What we have to do is we have to get this money back to Sri Lanka.
The local fishing community in Sampur has also raised their objections towards the proposed construction of a coal power plant in the area, citing that if it is constructed, it would have a direct impact on their profession.
Dangers of Sampur.
Sampur was in the middle of a 3-decade-long war between two sides. The locals were only able to breathe the air of liberty following the conclusion of the war. As this small child attempts to build his playhouse, the people in the area too are attempting to rise up. However, their lives and professions are at risk, owing to the direct impact the proposed coal plant could pose to the environment.
These boats you see in the background were given to the people by one ministry, so that they can make a better life for themselves. And on the other hand, the question they ask us is, when one ministry helps us to improve our lives, why does another do acts that can affect our lives in a negative manner?
According to environmentalists, the over 7 degrees Celsius water that would be released to the ocean from the plant, as well as the acidic water that will be released from the plant, would pose a threat to the marine life in the area. The locals lament that their future too is at stake.
If the proposed coal power plant is constructed, we will not be able to continue fishing in the seas. We will be left helpless. The only thing we know to do is catch fish.
The people of Sampur do not desire to have a coal plant in this area. We cannot leave to other areas to engage in any other trade. We were displaced for a decade and we returned to this area. What we ask is for the government to introduce something good for the area.
Our main source of income is fishing and farming. If the proposed coal power plant goes ahead, we will have many issues. We request the government to withdraw this and allow the people to live happily in this area again.
Dangers of Sampur.
Wild elephants attacked a storage facility belonging to the Paddy Marketing Board in Uhana Kumarigama in Ampara for the third time in 6 months.
4 wild pachyderms had caused damages to the paddy storage facility at around 4 this morning.
No one visited this place. Elephants enter this area on a daily basis. There is no place to run for safety. They ran into our garden. Then we lit firecrackers and all types of firecrackers. Then we heard them breaking into the storage facility. There is an elephant fence, but there is no use of that. They are there in the morning and in the evening as well. We have no way of leaving the houses. They are there even at 4 in the morning.
Before launching their attack on the paddy storage facility, the wild elephants had also caused damages to several houses in the Kumarigama village. The children next door were screaming after they heard the noise, saying not to step out of the houses that the elephants have stormed in. My father came and held the torch and saw that the elephant was in the garden. If the wall had collapsed, then that man would have been dead by now. There is no solution for this problem.
When News First set off on the Gum at the Door-to-Door initiative, we inquired into the well-being of the people of Uhana and several surrounding villages in Ampara. The people living in those villages presented News First with a number of issues, which included the human-elephant conflict.
The News First Gum at the Door-to-Door program revealed many adversities faced by people living in rural Sri Lanka. Today, we were able to provide a solution to one issue that was our forward to the News First Gum at the Door-to-Door campaign.
GWS Dharmakirti, his wife, along with their 2 children, live in this small clay hut. Dharmakirti, who works as a day labourer, told us during the Gum at the Door-to-Door program that he was unable to build a proper house for his family. A number of individuals who got to know of the man, including Karil Toza and Janaka Butheju, were swift to act on it. The foundation stone was placed for a new house on the 24th of last month, and today they were handed over their new home.
So this is big enough, right? සිරස ආයතනයෙන් මේක හෙලි කෙරුවා. මෙහෙම ප්‍රශ්නයක් රටේ තියෙනවා කියලා.
The Sirius Media Network revealed this issue to the nation. I wish to extend my gratitude to the Sirius Media Network. I hope that you will assist in the development of the village. I can support the construction of the cultivation as well. You can assist in the development.
I was presented a new house today. This was done through the government program. I'm thankful to every one of them for building a house for us. We did not have any expense.
Dharmakirti's 3-year-old daughter suffers from chronic kidney disease.
What is important to me is my daughter's recovery. I am thankful to everyone at the Sirius Media Network for supporting us and helping us.
The group, including Carol Tozer, distributed a number of goods to the locals and children in the area.
Your life.
The foreign policy of President Maithripala Sirisena and Prime Minister Ranil Wickremesinghe has been praised by the Chinese government. The Prime Minister's office stated that Chinese President Xi Jinping has expressed these views when the visiting Sri Lankan Prime Minister called on the Chinese President. Prime Minister Ranil Wickremesinghe called on the Chinese President Xi Jinping this afternoon. The Chinese President had stated that attention will be focused on the people and its policy and not on the political parties and individuals when providing support to Sri Lanka. When President Maithripala Sirisena toured China in the year 2015, the Chinese President had pointed out that the tour would be a juncture to both the countries, and the Chinese President had also harped on the importance of creating a consensual government for the political stability in the country. The Chinese President had also expressed his consent over the reopening of the construction of the Colombo port city. The Prime Minister's office had stated that the Chinese government had vowed its fullest cooperation towards the development of the country. The Prime Minister had stated that a 3-member committee will be appointed to speed up and regulate the Chinese investments and projects. The Minister of Special Projects, Professor Saratha Munugama, Minister of International Trade and Development Strategy, Malik Samar Vikrama, and the Policy Advisor to the Ministry of Planning and Economic Development, R. Bhaskiralingam, will be the 3-member committee. Meanwhile, Prime Minister Ranil Wickremesinghe took part in a business conference that took place in Beijing. The Chinese International Promotion Council had organized this conference, and a number of businessmen took part in the conference.
We are also carrying out a series of structural reforms to make it easy for you to do business, and certainly our rules on monetary affairs would be changed and liberalized much further. These will be announced June this year. And here in Colombo we will have a special business and financial center with separate laws which are already been drafted, and where we will also have 2 economies in one country to make it easier for you to do business. And we selected the 4th city to become the special business and financial district. The rest of business areas will move out of port. Mattala also has the capacity to become a major tourist airport for tourism coming in from China. We are looking at a southern tourist belt. We want the infrastructure, the major services, the infrastructure sectors to be either privately owned or public-private partnership.
Speaking at an event organized by the Ranaviru Seva Authority and the Ministry of Defence at the Panagoda Army Camp, the State Minister of Defence said that military security will not be provided to any VIP.
Virusara privilege cards were presented to the wounded war heroes and the families of the deceased war heroes by State Minister of Defence Ruwan Wijayawardena. Chairman of the Ranaviru Seva Authority Anuma Fonseca and Defence Secretary Karna Senahettiarachi were also present at the event.
As a government, we came to a decision that we have a policy. The military is not there to provide security to the VIPs, but to provide security to the nation. Keeping that in mind, we have decided not to provide military security to any VIP in the future. Today, the President and the Defence Minister provided police security. There were instances when military security were provided to certain VIPs' sons who needed to go on night races, and sandbags were carried and roads were cleaned by them. Therefore, as a government, we During a cabinet media briefing held yesterday, Secretary of Defence Karuna Senehetiarachi expressed the following on the security of the former president.
The former president was provided security from 103 military personnel and 103 police personnel from the very beginning. Moreover, Gotabaya was provided with 50 military personnel for his security. The right to provide security to VIPs fall under the purview of the Ministry of Law and Order and the police. The former president is provided with the same number of security personnel, taking out the military personnel. However, this same number is provided using both police personnel and personnel from the Special Task Force. This decision was reached upon around 4 to 5 months ago. Former President Mahinda Rajapaksa is now provided a total security force of 256 security personnel at present, more than what he used to have. No military personnel are used to provide security for either the President or the Prime Minister at present. Therefore, we cannot provide any special treatment.
Has a request been put forward by the former president that he is not content with the present level of security provided to him and that a change needs to be made?
There is a written and legal procedure that needs to be followed when requesting for security personnel. Such a request has not been made.
Was a statement made by the leader of the House yesterday that there was no reduction in the number of security personnel?
It cannot be stated that there will be a change in that number. There are two aspects in this, that is the sufficiency and the quality. That will not be changed. It is wrong that military personnel are used for the security of VIPs. It is not legal.
Minister of Provincial Councils and Local Government Faiza Mustafa was accompanied by Deputy Minister Manusha Nanakara at a media briefing today.
The General Secretary of the SLFP and the Election Commissioner made a request asking me to hold the elections immediately. I told him that as soon as the demarcation process is over, that the elections will be held. All I have to state to the secretaries of the relevant parties is that the same way they hold responsibility to the party's members, I am responsible to the nation. Therefore, just because the General Secretary of the party rushes the entire process, I cannot go ahead with an election. I would like to make a request that I be given the required space to undertake my duties, and I state with responsibility that I will undertake my duties to the best of my ability. The minister also expressed the following way. The SLFP will be celebrating the May Day in Galle this time around. We look forward to receiving the support from all members of the SLFP. Moreover, the leader as well as the Central Working Committee of the party has decided to adhere to strict rules of the SLFP at this year's May Day rally. I would like to state with responsibility that the Secretary of the SLFP, together with the UPFA General Secretary, Mahinda Amarveera, we will be taking stern action against those members who do not participate in this year's May Day celebrations of the party. While Deputy Minister Manusha Nanakara too participated at the media briefing today, journalists questioned his support to the government.
Today, based on certain persons' whims and fancies, they have split the SLFP into two to operate contracts which they have taken up. We cannot undertake such a crime after losing the presidential election on the 8th of January, and those parties who accepted their defeat and turned away, and today it is the very same person that have once again gathered around as one to support the plan of the current government. Certain senior factions are discussing on their return due to not receiving posts as cabinet ministers. Therefore, they have to go and receive an approval from Parliament.
Now there's an issue since the two of us used to work in the same place. Is there some payment made to you by the Maharaj organization to engage in politics? The Public Utilities Commission of Sri Lanka has rejected the CEB's request to obtain electricity from a private plant. Yet the issue is being marred with controversy as Cabinet had granted approval for this purpose. The PUCSL says that the proposed plan presented by the CEB for electricity generation does not indicate any reason for purchasing electricity in such a manner.
The Public Utilities Commission notes that the private power plant from which electricity is to be purchased has not been included under the CEB's long-term low-cost generation plan. In addition, approval should be obtained from the Public Utilities Commission of Sri Lanka before seeking cabinet approval for the purchasing of electricity from the private power plant. However, in this case, that had not taken place. The Public Utilities Commission goes on to say that there are alternative sources to generate electricity to meet the requirements apart from the private power plant mentioned in the CEB's request. In response to the CEB's request, the Public Utilities Commission of Sri Lanka says that it has no issue with the Cabinet granting approval for this, and however adds that if additional cost is to be borne for the purchasing of electricity, that cost should be borne by the Ceylon Electricity Board and it should not burden the consumers.
A discussion was held at the President's office today regarding the May Day celebrations of the Sri Lanka Freedom Party.
The discussion, which was held under the auspices of President Maithripala Sirisena, saw the participation of electorate organisers, MPs and ministers. A group representing the joint opposition too attended the discussion.
The President suggested that everyone get together and celebrate the May Day. The chairman of the Sri Lanka Freedom Party is President Maithripala Sirisena. We should attend the meeting that will be led by him. We were with Sirimava Bandaranaike. We were with Chandrika Bandaranaike as well. We were with Mahinda Rajapaksa as well. This time around we are with the chairman of the party. That is how it should be since we are SLF peers. We must stay with the party. Former Minister Basil Rajapaksa arrived at the Presidential Commission of Inquiry today.
දේශපාලන ඉන්නවා දේශපාලනෙන් ඉවත් වෙන්න ආසාවක් තියුණා දැන් හැබැයි මේ රටේ සිද්ධ වෙන දේවල් බැලුවම ජනතාව වෙනුවෙන් දේශපාලනින් නිරත වෙන්න වෙනවා.
Outgoing Inspector General of Police N.K. Lanka paid a courtesy call on the commander of the Army Lieutenant General Krishanta De Silva at the Army headquarters today.
The visit saw the troops of Sri Lanka Armoured Corps greet him to a guard of honour upon his arrival in accordance with military traditions. N.K. Lanka made the visit prior to his retirement from service. Several senior officers of the army were also present. Towards the end of the cordial meeting, the outgoing police chief N.K. Lanka presented a memento to Lieutenant General Krishanta De Silva. The gesture was reciprocated.
President Maithripala Sirisena paid his last respects to the late Kusumavati Manike, the mother of the Minister of Power and Renewable Energy, Ranjit Siyamalapitiya.
The remains have been placed in her residence in Vandala, Karavanella. Kusumavati Manike, who was 83 years old at the time of her death, was a mother of 3. Large crowds, including a number of ministers, arrived to pay their last respects to the late Kusumavati Manike. The final rites will be performed tomorrow evening at the Dehiyovita Public Cemetery.
Well, on that note, we wrap up this edition of Primetime News. Thank you for stopping by. I'm Joel Outscourt.
And I'm Bernadine Jazz. Sing her good night and take care.
Good night.